boys and girls, Ken Smith Fishing. This is going to be part 2 of my conversation with Rick Pierce of Bass Cat Boats, president of Bass Cat Boats, when we went up and picked up the links a few weeks ago. Now let me also just mention, so at the end of this video, I'm going to add some Rayburn local stuff that's going on regarding ramp closures and lake levels. So if you want to hear that information, it'll be right at the end of the video. It'll be at that timestamp right there, so you can go check that out. But this is my continuing conversation with Rick. We've got a lot of good footage from that visit up there, and I just really enjoyed sitting down with him. He knows so much about the history of bass boats, and just a lot about performance and understanding what makes a boat go fast and perform well and ride good. And I just got a chance to pick his brain. So I hope you guys, I know from the first response or the feedback on that first video, you guys are enjoying this. So here's part 2. So you said something to me as we were walking over here about slippage and about, so y'all got a big go fast boat sitting out front out here.
Yeah, we've played with one or two.
So it's a Jag with the 450.
Yeah, it's a fun boat.
Yeah. So, but you were talking about it, the slippage continues to improve for a really long time in that part. Now, by the way, so it's running a Sportmaster, so it's the props out of the water.
Oh yeah, it's a surface and wheel. We're running it not as high as it'll go by far, but we're up there with it pretty good.
So explain to me what's going on that that continued improvement in slippage.
Well, as it pushes that weight, it's almost like catching up from a tire spinning, all right?
Okay.
And so if your tire's spinning, eventually it catches up and goes, right? Because the slippage comes down in the mud, in the water, whatever. And it's the same in water because it's not a solid medium. So as that pitch of that blade's turning in the water, there's some slippage there that it takes it a half mile, or 2 miles maybe to catch up.
How far do you think that boat has to run to get to the best slippage number you get?
To get trips out of it, you got to run.
Trips is in the 100 miles an hour?
Yeah, in that bracket. You got to run almost 4 miles to get trips. And that's because of the weight of everything. You're running a Verado, as you know, it's a heavy motor. You're running 4 AGM batteries in that boat. It's got big electronics. It's got big trolling motor on the bow. The boat itself's well over a couple grand, 2,300 pounds. So you're pushing all that weight. It's got 65 gallons of fuel in it. So when you start pushing it, even if you're running half fuel, it's still 30 gallons. And as you start pushing it, it just takes it a long way to build up and reduce slippage.
Would it be the same in my Lynx?
The Lynx is a very similar situation. As a matter of fact, Phil Addison and I had that conversation about the Lynx and the difference in him getting it up to speed. He said just takes longer.
So at 2 or 3 miles, I'll be running faster than I was in the first mile.
You should be. It won't be as dramatic as that Jag,
yeah,
because the Jag's just that much bigger and you're running that surfacing blade. And the higher you take that prop, the more it takes it because you got less in the water. So it's just more time.
Do you know what prop's on that boat right now?
On that particular Jag? Oh, 30-inch Bravo.
30-inch Bravo.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got a video series that I just want to mention. I'm not sure when we'll stick this in, but called Who Took Me Fishing?
Who Took You Fishing?
So I got to share mine.
All right.
So Who Took Me Fishing was my granny outside of Gurdon, Arkansas, between Gurdon, Arkansas and Oklahoma, Arkansas.
Not many people know where Gurdon is.
They don't, that's right. But my earliest memories, I'm going to get teary-eyed about this. My earliest memories are my cousin Wayne sitting here. Wayne's gone now, and I'm sitting here, and Granny is here. And that distance between me and my granny is 1 cane pole. And we'd catch a fish, we'd swing it to Granny. She'd take off whatever we caught, and it went in the bucket because we were going to eat what we caught out of the pond. And she would put a worm on it. My family's from Arkansas, boys and girls. She would spit snuff on that worm, and you'd swing it back out there and you'd catch another one. She had a Maxwell coffee can sitting next to her chair all the time.
Yeah, I had a little tin.
That's right. But that's who took me fishing. Who took you fishing?
Oh, my grandfather took me fishing, no doubt.
Really?
Yeah, first time my grandfather, my mom's dad, and that's who got Dad into it. And of course, you've seen the video series, and it's a cool thing. And you know, there's not a person that doesn't get teary-eyed.
It's just.
I mean, that's really the passion in that series.
I'm amazed it doesn't have thousands and thousands. You guys need to check it out. It's a great series, and you got most all your pros have done it, I think.
We've done it with all the current pros, and we've done it with some of the former. A couple we lost. They're good guys, you know them. Certainly no reservations about what we did, but there's going to be some videos shot. We're going to bring JP back in, shoot some of the new guys. And there's not anyone that really lets their heart out that it doesn't just tear at you. It just tears at you when you're up there.
Well, and most of us, whoever that person is probably gone now.
I'll tell you, the one that gets me that was probably, there's two of them. Zach Burgess is pretty good, you know.
I don't know if I saw that one.
But the one that really gets you when you look at the things through your career and who took you fishing and how it came about, the one that I think really tears at it differently and exposes himself a lot, and that's Paul Elias.
Really?
Paul really lets a lot go there, and you know, when you know Paul, and I do, and known Paul for years, there's a lot to Paul.
Yeah. It's a great, and they're not very long, but that's great video. I don't know who came up with that idea, but that's great video.
Yeah, we came up with that several years ago, and then we got delayed on it because Bassmaster ran that little series in the middle of it, and we all had the same concept. We'd even written about it in the brochure in the front cover letter, and then Bassmaster created that concept they came up with, and so it was a spin-off of some things that were really done by a Chamber of Commerce somewhere. I thought, man, we could really do something with this.
Yeah, it's cool.
And it's a really cool series, and I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, it's a great idea. So you said something, I made notes, guys, you know me, there's stuff I want to talk about. You said something to me in one of our conversations about the difference, and this is when I really started realizing I don't know what the crap I'm talking about. So you made a comment to me talking about fine versus coarse thread bolts. And I actually made a note with a question mark, and I said to myself, I want to know more about what you're talking about, what that difference is. And I think you were talking about transom bolts.
Yeah, it's motor mounting bolts, yeah. All of our motor mounting bolts are fine thread.
Why?
Because when that goes down, we get a really good control pattern on the torque. So when you take a coarse, it's coming in like a wedge. So it's actually just clamping it, right?
I never thought about that.
So the finer that bolt.
It's prop slippage. It's like tightening up a 17 pitch prop versus a 30-inch prop. You can turn it more and not move it as much.
Mm-hmm. I bring that whole thing up with better pressure, clean. It just smoothly tightens everything up. And then the retention on it's better because it doesn't move as far, so you don't get as much back off on the nuts. You know, everybody goes and checks their nuts and bolts on their motor.
Some don't. They drag it down the highway.
Yeah, well, most of that problem we've eliminated. Not all of it, but most of it.
Well, it can't hurt to have 6, too.
Well, on the boat we've got 6, but we still got 4 on the motor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you got kind of a thing about components.
Yeah, big time.
Talk about that. I mean, even your latches on the live well latch, right?
Oh,
it's
yeah,
off to the side.
We had Sierra Pacific custom build that latch.
And I initially didn't like it. But then you told me why it's the way it is about heat transfer. Mm-hmm. So talk about that.
Well, we wanted a dual spring, and I wanted stainless. We can buy a lot of draw latches, but we can't buy that latch. So we had a company called Sierra Pacific built it. We had to order thousands and thousands of them. And matter of fact, we had a transfer in purchasing, and the new purchasing guy, because they had them on the rack down there, thought, oh, we'll just order some. He didn't realize it has to be built.
Hold on.
Yeah, so you just can't go get it off the shelf.
Yeah.
They happened to find enough to cover us till they could get it done, but thousands of them at a time, and we buy it, and it's a dual spring latch. It's very tight, a lot of poundage, but the real cool part of that was one of the biggest downfalls in live wells we've found is the temperature of the water, and that reduces the amount of oxygen the water can carry. Well, the biggest conduit for that is the latches, because you know how hot your stainless latch gets in the summertime.
You sit down on it once and you'll know.
Yeah, well, that's all transferring heat into the box or into the water. And so by moving those latches to the outside,
Because that latch does not go through that hut.
It does not go in that area, right? And so that latch, and it's really simple latch, and it's also eliminates some of the problems of guys having to stop and twist it, and they don't twist it, because if you leave that one open,
You'll see it.
oh yeah, you just screwed up. You
Yeah.
leave that one open, you just screwed up, and you know it.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget, you know, everybody gives me a hard time about Billy McDonald chasing the one across the back deck in an Okeechobee, and Okeechobee's the worst.
It made me sick to my stomach because I had one do that to me
Yeah,
once.
well, I'll never forget the time that Mark Davis forgot to turn his latches coming in at Okeechobee, and he had to chase one. He looked back and he had a 3-pounder on the back deck. Well, he'd already lost a 3.5-pounder.
Oh, no.
And this was coming in for weigh-in. And he looked back and he hadn't twisted the latches. So if that draw latch, it's just a really good positive latch. When you snap them, we want them to have pressure on them. You definitely got to keep your fingers out of the way because they're coming
It
down.
will pop down, yeah.
They pop down, and it's really a good item. It's just, it's positive.
I'll tell a quick story on myself, and we may cut this out. But my first boat was a piece of junk Hydrosport. Literally, it was very fast, but pieces of the carpet would fly off.
1970s Hydrosport.
You'd be
Made
ducking
by
carpet.
Joe Reeves. Joe Reeves, that's another story.
I was running across Livingston and hit a wake, and I heard something go pop, and I looked around, and not only had my live well lid flew open, it had flew off. And I shut it down, and I had a fish doing this in the splash well, and I fell on him like a hand grenade and got him out, put him back in the live well, and ran to the weigh-in with my hand over. So I'm familiar with live wells popping open. So,
Yeah, the Joe Reeves Hydrosport, I liked old Joe.
God, that was not a good boat for me. But so you also you even order every one of your screws.
Screws are all custom built. We've been doing that for years when nobody made it. Today it's pretty common to get that square drive and other screws, but they weren't even available anywhere when we started doing that. So those are all custom made parts.
So you did that so you can torque on them more?
It eliminated two things. I hate that burr you get on a number 2 Phillips. I hate that burr.
Yep.
Because there's one particular company that made themselves famous because of quality. One of their biggest sales factors, if their screw head had a burr on it, they'd throw it away and put a new one in. And that was one of the things they sold their dealers on. It's a big boat company, big name. And that was, this particular family made that was just one of their main components, you know. For us, I just wanted to eliminate it. And then it kept, two things are good. And back in the 80s, you'll recall, everybody wanted to play with everything. Had to fix it yourself. Well, it eliminated some of that too, because now you went to square drive when we did that in the late 80s, 90s, actually 90s. And it was all custom made parts, so they had to make all our screws, which isn't a major deal, but it's not like I can pick up the phone and order them, because you had to order different lengths, different sizes. And I don't remember, but I think we carry 24 different square drive screws.
All right, here's my question for you. Is there really a Bigfoot out there?
Is there really a Bigfoot? That's a good one. As many cameras as we got in the world today, there is no Bigfoot.
You live in Northwest Arkansas. You've never seen one?
No, I'll tell you, I did see a bear on camera every now and then. But
So y'all got a lot of bears up here now.
Oh yeah, we've got quite a few black bears.
And there's a herd of elk up here somewhere.
Oh, have you not been over to see that? Over at Ponca, that's pretty good, yeah.
It's a wild herd of elk now.
Well, it's not wild. It's wild, but I mean, it was brought in here.
Yeah.
They brought them in. I think they run a population base on that. There's
Yeah.
somewhere around 1,000 elk down there at Ponca.
Holy cow, I didn't realize it was that many.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got a buddy that lives up here.
That's more money than you want to know about.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine. All right, so I got tickled that one of the boat manufacturers that I talked to told me that they were the only people that did boat manufacturing using vacuum bags.
Well, they're
And
not
then
the only ones.
I found a video on Bass Cat's YouTube channel from 2014 where you're talking about vacuum bagging.
Yeah, we've done a lot of vacuum. We've vacuumed hulls. We're not vacuuming the whole hull right now. The biggest thing, and it's a part of that ride you talked about, is because of the way we vacuum the stringer assemblies and everything together.
So for guys who are sitting here going, you know, I've heard of stringers. What's a stringer?
The stringer's the support on the hull.
It's
And
the long.
Yeah, and it's probably one of
beams,
the
if
most
you will.
critical aspects is the design of a stringer. So basically, we build our stringers differently, and I'll never forget this. This is a story about a gentleman that used to work for Terry McCabe, worked for Interplastics, and he was the president of the Composite Fabricators Association.
Okay.
So Terry came in here one day, and I said, Terry, this is in the late 80s, and I said, Terry, I'm thinking about doing this, vacuuming the stringer and the hull all together. He says, oh, I don't think, Rick, it'll never work. It'll never work. So one day I tried it, and it worked, and we built the parts, and they have to be built special. And I called Terry up, and he wasn't there, and his secretary got on the phone. Oh, so Terry's in South Africa. He's working on a project over there. He said he's going to be out of town for 2 weeks. I said, well, when he gets back in, have him call me. And so about 10 minutes, the phone rang. And it's Terry McCabe. The receptionist says, hey, some guy named Terry McCabe wants to talk to you. So I said, hey, Terry, what's up, man? And he says, you blankety blank. I said, Terry, you blankety blank. What's up? He said, the only reason you called me you blankety blank is it works. I said, Terry, it works. And that was in the late 90s. And that's when we first went to vacuum on vacuuming the hull together, and we did vacuum transoms eventually, which we're all vacuum transoms now. We created that process to pull. So the big thing in lamination is the percentage of glass in your material.
Okay.
So there's another company.
So glass and resin, right?
Glass and resin. The percent of glass, the strength is not in the resin.
Okay.
It's just holding the glass together.
It's just the gooey stuff.
That's just, well, it becomes hard, but that's what holds the glass together. It's the binder of the glass.
Okay.
So the quality of glass and the quality of material in the glass is what's most important. And so we really work hard on that. And so we want a good high glass content, low resin content. And then the quality of resin, since that's a binder, the quality of resin makes a big difference. So the resin we're using today in a premium hull, to start off in a vinyl ester, cost us over 3 times what our largest competitor pays for resin.
Really?
Yes.
Because of the quality of the resin?
Because of the quality of the resin.
So does that allow you to use less resin?
Doesn't use less resin, just makes the product that much more.
Just makes it stronger. Mm-hmm. All right, so I know there is something, and I know, so you know I talked to 6 fiberglass shops through this process. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you guys, one of the reasons I'm sitting in this room is because of those 6 guys, they were all guys, there's only one boat company that every one of them named as one of the 3 best built boats. But I also know they don't particularly like you.
Why is that?
Because it's hard as hell to get the hull and the cap apart.
You won't get the hull and cap apart.
So
I'll tell you a story on that in a minute.
So explain to me what you do, the binding process, why you do it, and I know that's got something to do with that feel I feel driving that boat.
Yeah, we try to build the boat inside out.
Okay.
So we've always, even going back to the first modular boats in the 70s, and you'll remember that particular brand you mentioned earlier was screwed together.
Okay.
We've never screwed together a boat.
Okay.
Every other company in the old days always screwed together a boat, and we never have. So we always use the old fiberglass it together method on the inside. So we're not worried about the outside cap as much, because a lot of people think you can glass the outside cap. There's no way to get to the outside cap on a boat. You can't glass cap and hull together everywhere because there's just no way to get in those areas. So you wind up with trying to glass all the boxes, all the components. And it's one of the reasons that we don't have something that you don't like, and that's finished boxes. Some of our boxes aren't finished because we want to glass that hull together. And that's where you get a lot of that ride and a lot of that change. And glassing that boat together all the way through really makes it a solid product. And yeah, they'd rather make it where you can split the cap, take it off.
Yes, they would.
But I don't build boats to fix them.
Right.
I build them for the guy that buys them and doesn't break them.
Well, and you know, back to the conversation we had earlier, which will probably be on a different video, you've got extremely high customer loyalty, but you also, I believe, have a longer average own period per boat sold, don't you?
Yeah, we did learn that also. We had guys keeping their boats 16, 18 years, yeah.
And if you got a guy who's going to keep a boat that long, that's why you put better carpet in it, that's why you finish it out better, and that's why they're keeping them.
Yeah, back during the recession period, we did a study, and we wound up with guys keeping boats 8 to 17 years.
Yeah, that's a long, long time.
Yeah, that's what they'd keep them though. And I'm in conversation with one right now. Has had his boat 21 years,
Wanting a new one?
ready to come to a new one.
Good for him.
Okay, so we'll have some more of this conversation next week. Let's talk about Rayburn really quickly. So, oh, you know what? Before I go to talk specifically about Rayburn, some of you guys know Bait Shop Barbecue right there on Main Street in Zavala, Texas. Billy owns that. He's a fisherman. He's a friend. We've become very big fans since they've opened Bait Shop. This Saturday night, Bait Shop is going to have their last crawfish bowl of the year, and he's going to have live music out there from 6 to 9 o'clock at night. So if you happen to be in the Zavala area, they'll have barbecue and crawfish and live music. And by the way, he is BYOB, which I believe is the only restaurant, I don't believe, it is the only restaurant in Zavala. If you want to go eat crawfish or barbecue and bring your own beer in there, you can do that. So that's just something I thought I'd stick in there. And tell Billy I said hello, because we're not down this weekend. So Rayburn is at 174.11 as I record this late on Wednesday evening. The highest I could find that I recorded in my notes from from my videos last time the lake was really high was 174.42. I think it got a little bit higher than that, but the top of the spillway is 176. If this thing goes over the spillway, we got problems. But there's water still coming into the lake. Moon Pie told me today when he went across the river's for like a mile on either side of the river, it's out of its bank. So there's a ton of water coming in. There's still rain in the forecast. Yesterday or the day before, they closed Umphrey. So to my knowledge, right now, the only ramps that I know as of today that were open was Castle Boykins in Jackson Hill. I believe Shirley Creek's open, and I think Powell's open. But there is very, very limited access to Rayburn right now. So before you plan a trip down there, I would check with somebody and make darn sure there's access. And I'll also tell you, I was told that even this past weekend that you really had to be super careful going under the bridge if there's any waves at all. So I would not run under the bridge right now. I would idle it, and I would idle it at a very slow speed in case I had to put it in reverse. So I just want to let you guys know, I'm getting a lot of questions about the fishing at Rayburn. The fish are scattered. Again, I've not been on the water, but from all my friends, the fish are scattered from the picnic tables out to the outside edge of what's left of the grass. This is going to almost certainly kill the grass right when we had grass getting good again. But that's what happens when you get this tremendously high water. It's, basically that grass can't get any sunshine to survive. So as I recall, when this happened before, they can only pull it down about 6 inches a week. And frankly, the water's got to quit going up before they can start pulling it down. So it's bad. I hate it. I wish we didn't have this happening, but it is. There's nothing we can do about it. But again, if you're planning to go down there, you can at least keep good barbecue and good crawfish up at Billy's place. But be really, really careful on the lake. I suspect with the water high like this, there'll be a lot of floaters too. So I wouldn't get in a hurry going anywhere, and I dang sure wouldn't get in a hurry trying to go on the bridge. So that's my little bit of Rayburn report. Next week, we're going to 3 a week. I'm going to have a video on Monday, one on Wednesday, and one on Friday. And we're going to do that for several weeks because we got a lot of good stuff we want to share with y'all. So normally we're Tuesday, Thursday, but for the next several weeks, we're going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Hope you guys enjoy our videos. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe and click the bell so you get notifications when we post new videos out. Thanks, guys. We'll see y'all soon.